glad to see you back. I think both of the two of my YouTube subscribers. You at best, you know that. Today I wanted to talk about the non-fiction book written by Alain de Botton, Status Anxiety. I just recently read it and I'm very much impressed. I knew his writing style before. I read as well this one, The Consolations of Philosophy. Enjoyed it very much. And I have another one here, The Architecture of Happiness. He also published a couple of books with School of Life. I read School of Life Unemotional Education and School of Life Heartbreak, but they are plenty, I think, of different books. Today I wanted to talk more on the form-giving methods that Alain de Botton so generously shared with us. But before that, before we jump into the lessons, a couple of words on the genre itself. Those books are classed with self-help books, and it means that we should not expect it to be strictly scientific or very complete in its analysis of socioeconomic processes. Alain de Botton touches on this. He touches on historical development of beliefs and of the society at large. And I understand it leads to a conclusion that, all right, now we want to know the whole thing. If we do some generalizations, we want to be comprehensive about that. It is true if it was scientific research, but it isn't. This is the genre releases the author from this very strict box of a research book. What he presents is an array of observations and little snapshots from different historical eras and different opinions of thinkers of the past on status. The whole collection is strictly the author choice, and it reflects his way of thinking and his take on status anxiety. That's what I wanted to say in front. Now we can start with the first lesson. The first lesson that I extracted from Alain de Botton's book is his wonderful technique on how to gently stimulate self-reflection in the reader. It's truly remarkable. Instead of giving advice as a formulated thought, for this book it would be, you have to change your way of thinking, and if you do not perceive social status as something very important in your life, then you will have less anxiety about it. Well, true enough, but it's hard to change your way of thinking without first questioning your beliefs, without first reflecting on them. But what Alain de Botton does, he takes us on a walk in this museum of different historical eras and shares with us some observations. The status in the past was not what we think it is today. For instance, some 100 years ago, you were born in your status. You couldn't change it. If you were born a landlord, then you would be a landlord till the rest of your life. If you were born the first son, you would inherit the biggest portion of the estate, or maybe the whole of it. if you were born a peasant, you would stay a peasant till the rest of your life. There was a system very unfair and having very little equality in it, but still much different from what we perceive it now, and maybe with less anxiety, or maybe with different types of anxieties. So when we see how those norms change with time, how fluid they can be, it also allows for more flexibility in our minds. And then the final bits of self-reflection and the conclusion is left entirely to the reader. And the author does not formulate the thought. It's your work to do it for yourself. It's like at a buffet of a large table with many different dishes. You can taste some of them and pick those that you like and make a final mix and a final dinner for yourself. What you choose to believe into, what you choose to justify or not to justify or to question. It's up to you. And I truly admire it. It is a talent. Not every teacher, not every school teacher, not every university professor is skilled enough to do this. Even though when you as a reader came to your own conclusion, first you treasure it more, second you trust it more, because it's not an advice, a piece of knowledge that was dropped from the sky to you. It is something that you formulated for yourself. As a writer, I think it's a wonderful technique that we should adopt and use it in our own writing. Fiction uses it as well. Sometimes not all the clues are given, just enough to spark your curiosity, but not enough to explain every single detail. And it makes it more interesting. It makes it a quest on acquiring, maybe even co-creating with the writer himself. So that was the first lesson. And the second lesson is opinionless writing. I say it opinionless, but it's not exactly. It is an approach when you don't form the whole piece around your own ideas. Because, well, typically there is an advice how to write a good essay. You first propose your own take on the problem, then you propose some counter-argument, then you trash the counter-argument, you establish the truth, which is your opinion, of course, and make a conclusion that you were right all along. Sometimes that may be what you want to write, and other times it's more interesting to let more voices to be heard, maybe even step back a little bit and let them come forward. And again, leave the reader to form their own opinion, whatever they decide on it, right? You can just gently introduce, this is one idea, and this is another idea. And I say it's not truly opinionless, because of course it's your pick what you want to introduce. It's your pick whom you give the airtime, whom you give the stage in your writing. And when you look at the higher level of the collection which you presented to the reader, your own opinion is also there, of course. It is not that we should extract our personality from the writing, because then we end up with another Wikipedia page, and we have plenty already. We don't need more. It is that not every piece of writing needs to be about finding the absolute truth, finding what's true and what's false, and the one and only solution. Sometimes there aren't any one solution fits all. Like in this book, Alain de Botton, and there are two parts of it. First, causes, and second, solutions. And in solutions we find philosophy, art, politics, religion, bohemia. I cannot imagine any reader who would like all of those, but I can imagine readers that like one over another. Someone would be fascinated by what art takes on this problem of status anxiety, and what religious take is on it. And that's wonderful. We're different, and we have different system of belief and system of self, right? We have different self structures and how we function, how our brain functions, and what it takes as a fuel. For some people, art is huge fuel and also huge relief. And for some people, they find the self in politics. And that's amazing. That's why we are never bored with each other. We are all different people. So that's a second lesson, I think super important. And I would definitely try to learn how to do that. And the third one is more practical advice on diversifying writing with examples, graphical materials, and quotations as well. That's what Alain de Botton does wonderfully. But I just noticed for myself that, diversity is more important. It has more impact that I noticed before, especially for nonfiction books, especially scientific and philosophical books, because sometimes they just go on and on, talking about one abstract idea after another, and it gets a bit monotonous, it gets a bit tedious to get through. When what Alain de Botton does, he switches from topics. As I just mentioned, he switches from religion to politics, from one time frame to another, from quoting Marx to quoting Jean-Jacques Rousseau. They are very different people, and they had very different theories on social structures and social economic development of humankind and the personal development of a human. And that's what keeps you engaged with the book. I don't know about the attention span, maybe that's an issue sometimes too. And you can say, all right, I don't care because I write for smart people. They should be able to get through a couple of paragraphs of text about one idea, which is true, of course. We write for our audiences, not for everyone. It doesn't mean that every book should be equally digestible by a 5-year-old and 85-year-old. It's true. But this is what I take. And I also, well, we all know that even some short fiction stories, some even flash fiction stories, when you look at online magazines, when they are supported by a little illustration, it's more engaging, it's more interesting. It's immediately, okay, what does it illustration represent? Does it come out in a text somehow? And well, because I study psychology, I can imagine that it's just engagement with different sensory channels. And that's why, sometimes it's interesting to also listen to the book and read it at the same time. You engage more sensory channels at the same time. And that was all for the 3 lessons that I picked from Alain de Botton, Stageless Anxiety. Please let me know in the comments if you had the same observations, if you had the same impression of this book, if you disagree with something, sure, let me know. I will be very curious to read your comments. And the last chapter of every episode is always the afterthought. Today I wanted to share an afterthought on the genre itself, the self-help books. I read quite a lot of them. Some of them better written, some of them more a clickbait. And I understand the appeal. First, it was more intuitive. I just wanted to read something with this very appealing title, like how to find friends and win influence, or the opposite, how to win friends and find influence, something like that. But then I understood that it was a need for deeper answers, like how do I deal with this very difficult issue we call life? How do I deal with difficult emotions? How do I look into my future, which is sometimes scary? How do I look into my past? How do I interact with other people, etc.? There are many questions there, for which you want a step-by-step tutorial. And I'm sure some people already tried to make those. The amount of books, the amount of self-help books definitely supports my statement. Many people try to do that. But I don't think many people did it successfully. Oftentimes, after reading such a book, I have a very bad aftertaste. It's like I smell falsehood. I smell that the author also knew that they're not giving you what they claimed to give. They didn't reveal any fundamental truth about a successful, happy life that you maybe hoped for. And these books are a very nice exception of this rule. The only thing, I think, the only books in the whole genre I read that I can truly recommend, I can truly say, they don't try to deceive you. They don't try to sell you something they don't have. They don't try to reveal any fundamental truth and find shortcuts to success and happiness. And that is a very welcome development, and I hope one day more writers who like the genre, who write books in self-help genre will follow Alain de Botton example and make more or less objective, more or less honest books. We're not there yet, but I hope one day we will. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for joining me. And I'm very happy to talk about books all the time. If you have any suggestions for me, what to pick next, again, leave it in the comments. Thank you very much. Yeah, see you next time.